In today's video, we're going to be diving into some room clearing technique. Now, it's important I kind of preface this video with a few things here. Number one, I'm not an instructor, I'm not an expert, and this video isn't instruction for you. My intention with this video is to address those people who have zero training and zero awareness about CQB and about room clearing tactics, or any tactics for that matter, to give you guys an idea of all the considerations that go into whatever tactics you are using and being thoughtful and purposeful with how you move in one of these situations and how you handle these situations. And I hope by the end of this, you guys will start doing some studying into this, some research into it, and better yet, even go out and get your own training from an instructor and do some 4-on-4 stuff or something like that in order to get better and get good at this stuff. In my opinion, any citizen involved in preserving the freedom in this country should have some understanding of CQB and small unit tactics. But again, for the context of this video, we're going to be focusing more on a single man situation where you are clearing a building where there's not a extremely high exigency, meaning an immediate life threat like an active shooter or something like that. And we're going to get more into that in a little bit. The next thing I want to say is this is just my opinions, my information that I'm going to give you, how I like to do things. If you don't like this approach, that's totally fine. I can't really tell you what tactics are best to use because they are situation-based. Each situation calls for different tactics. I don't think there's one way of doing any particular thing, and that's the only way. I think it is based on a number of factors, and it's important to be adaptable. So with that out of the way, I want to talk about a few things that are going to come up as we start to analyze a little bit about what I like to do in order to clear a room. And the first being, don't rush. Take your time, as much time as you possibly can. Sometimes you don't have that much time, and we kind of are weighing that risk versus reward, right? So if we go faster, it's going to probably be more risky. But is the reward worth it? So if there's an active shooter, I may be ignoring unknowns and ignoring things in order to make my way to drive a wedge between bad guy and good guy. And that may be worth the potential reward I could get by stopping the murder immediately. However, there are other situations where I may just be clearing my house because I thought I heard somebody in here and I want to go make sure the house is secure, but there's not necessarily any information to tell me somebody's being killed right now or anything like that. So I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush in that situation. The next thing is CQB and room clearing is a game of angles, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but that's basically what it comes down to. Me mitigating my exposure and my risk while trying to address whatever the situation is. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, not too in depth. I don't have time to go into everything in this video. There's going to be a lot of stuff I leave out because this is just a short introduction. It is not necessarily a training video, and if I made an in-depth video on everything, it would take hours and hours and hours. We're going to talk about the two main sort of approaches to room clearing. On one end of the spectrum, you have dynamic, and on the other end, you have what I'll call deliberate. If you've watched any kind of tactical movies or war movies or any movie where they have police or military clearing structures, you've probably seen some degree of dynamic tactics, albeit probably executed completely wrong. So what is dynamic? Dynamic is a faster moving style or tactic of clearing a building where you are going to enter an area in order to clear it. This is popular more so with teams. So we have the door behind me over here. If we were going to clear this room that I'm in, essentially what you would see is people move through the doorway first, get into the room, and then they would basically break down the room, pointing their gun across the room in different angles. Point being, they're moving into the room and then clearing it. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have deliberate. I personally favor the deliberate or limited penetration side. And the big difference is if I were clearing this room and I were on the outside of that door, and let's assume the door is open, you would see me basically go across the door a couple of times in order to what's called slicing the pie, so that I can get as much information and clear as much of the room from the outside before committing to the room and getting into it. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons. There's a lot of people I know who I respect who are really, really good at CQB stuff, who really favor the dynamic side. And there's a lot of people I know and respect who really favor the deliberate side. And there's everything in between. Some people kind of mix tactics together to come up with their own SOPs. I find all of them useful. Practice all of them, train all of them, study on all of them, find pros and cons to each one. It's going to be more tools in your toolbox. But I find that at least for a single person situation like a concealed carrier, a lot of people tend to favor the deliberate side because you kind of have to cover your own back. So let's go ahead and take a look at me clearing a room here from the outside first. You'll notice that I try to hug one of the walls on either side. In this particular example, we're looking at a door that is in the center of the room that I'm in, although it's a corner-fed room that I'm looking to go into here. And then what I'm going to try to do is move around the doorway slowly in order to get as much information in that room as possible. And as I do that, I am looking deep, I'm looking shallow, and if I come across any furniture or anything that I think I can look underneath, I may even take a knee and do sort of an urban prone to look underneath that in order to clear it. I'm going to be taking my time when I'm doing this, and when I get to the other side, I may even go back to the side I started on. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling at that time, if I want to go back, if I have the extra time to do that. And then from there, I have a choice. Commit to the room and actually enter into that room now, into that space. I can do a limited entry into that room, basically meaning that I'm going to go into this doorway now and I am going to clear one of the deep corners. And if I do this limited entry, I've actually got two subcategories of that. I can clear one corner, pull out, and then clear the other corner, usually changing heights. Or I can clear the corner that I've determined to be more questionable, and then I can quickly look over my shoulder and clear the other corner. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling at the time. I've used both of these before in different situations. A nice thing about using the limited technique is that you can back out. If I see there's two bad guys over there, I've allowed myself a very easy, very quick exfil for that situation. I like that idea. I like the idea of leaving myself an exit. If I fully commit to the room and I move in, at that point, you have zero cover or concealment from any threats that are in that room. Now, it's not to say that a wall or a door or the door frame really offers any significant level of cover, because it doesn't. I would not count on any of that stopping any types of rounds at all. However, it does offer some level of concealment. And if I do have a threat in one of those corners and pull out, they're not going to know precisely where I am after that, and that allows me an opportunity to continue moving into a position and set up an ambush for them and then try to solve the situation from there, whether it's me waiting for cover or completely backing out of the situation. So I hope this video was really useful and informative for you guys and made you guys think that there's a little bit more out there that you're going to need to know rather than just owning a gun and maybe even how to shoot it. There's a lot that goes into keeping yourself safe, your family safe, and this country free. And I hope that you guys go out there and start studying this stuff. You guys go out there and get training on this. It's a lot of fun to practice. I've done a good bit of training, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, it is a blast to do this kind of training. So I really hope this is kind of an eye-opener and gets you guys thinking about some of this stuff. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Stay safe out there, and God bless.